Empires have fallen, religions have been replaced, the city itself has changed names, but the dome of the Hagia Sophia has withstood it all.
Not many buildings can boast of once being a church, a mosque, a museum, and a mosque again. But the Hagia Sophia in Turkey definitely can. It's one of the most famous buildings in the world, but not many know about its tragic backstory. Over the centuries, Hagia Sophia had been damaged by earthquakes, rebuilt by emperors, and fought over by empires. But underneath its well-documented surface, there's always been something unexpected lurking behind the shadows. And these secrets have just been uncovered. What are the secrets of Hagia Sophia? Why have they left researchers stunned? And what do they mean for the future? Let's find out. Hagia Sophia's legacy. Before it became a world-famous building, Hagia Sophia was just an architectural marvel built by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. After its completion in 537 AD, it became the heart of Byzantine Christianity, a symbol of imperial power and a marvel of early engineering. Its enormous dome inspired generations of architects and made it one of the most important structures ever built in Istanbul, formerly Constantinople. But even more impressive? The building survived earthquakes, fires, invasions, and even repeated conversions from cathedral to mosque in 1453 to a museum in 1935, and finally back to a mosque in 2020. You're probably wondering why all the back and forths. Well, when Hagia Sophia was first built, it was designed to be the centerpiece of Eastern Orthodox Christianity. And it was. For nearly 1,000 years, it was the largest cathedral in the world. The architects, Isidore of Miletus and Anthemius of Tralles, were mathematicians and engineers, not traditional builders. Their work resulted in an architectural masterpiece, a massive dome suspended seemingly in air, supported by a complex system of pendentives and arches that was centuries ahead of its time. For many at the time, the building wasn't just a place of worship, it was a symbol of imperial power and divine authority. From its grand dome mosaics to its polished marble columns imported from all across the empire, Hagia Sophia reflected the wealth, ambition, and engineering prowess of Byzantium. But things began to change in 1453 when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Mehmed II, also known as Mehmed the Conqueror, entered the city and declared it the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. One of his first official acts was to convert Hagia Sophia from a church into a mosque. But while this seemed like a purely religious decision, it wasn't. Instead, it was political. Like we mentioned earlier, Hagia Sophia represented Christian imperial authority, and by turning it into a mosque, Mehmed was making a statement. The Ottomans were now in power. Rather than destroy or significantly alter the structure, the Ottomans preserved much of Hagia Sophia. They plastered over the Christian mosaics, icons of Jesus, the Virgin Mary, saints, and emperors, because Islamic tradition forbids figurative imagery in sacred spaces. But they left the structure largely intact. They added Islamic features. 4 towering minarets were constructed around the building. A mihrab was installed to indicate the direction of Mecca, and massive circular medallions inscribed with Arabic calligraphy were hung inside the nave. For almost 500 years, it remained a mosque. Until the early 20th century rolled around and the Ottoman Empire collapsed. In its place, the Republic of Turkey was founded under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who believed in building a modern, secular nation. Atatürk saw Turkey's cultural legacy as broader than any one religion. And in 1935, under his directive, Hagia Sophia was secularized and reopened as a museum. As you can possibly imagine, this was a major decision, both symbolically and politically. Converting Hagia Sophia into a museum meant it would no longer belong to just one faith. It became a site of shared cultural and historical significance for Muslims, Christians, and pretty much anyone interested in Byzantine and Ottoman history. The mosaics that had been plastered over centuries earlier were carefully uncovered and restored. The Arabic calligraphy and Islamic elements were preserved alongside them. And just like that, the building became a rare example of layered religious coexistence, where visitors could see traces of both empires within the same walls. For decades, Hagia Sophia remained a museum. It welcomed millions of visitors each year and was even listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. However, in recent years, things once again began to change. As the decades rolled by, the building once again became the subject of political and religious debate. And in July 2020, following a Turkish court ruling, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan signed a decree converting Hagia Sophia back into a mosque. As expected, the decision was met with both support and criticism. While supporters saw it as a reclaiming of historical identity and national pride, critics, both within Turkey and abroad, viewed it as a step back from secularism and a loss for global cultural heritage. Erdogan attended the First Friday prayer in the reconverted mosque on July 24, 2020. And since then, Hagia Sophia has continued to function as a mosque, but remains open to visitors outside prayer hours. Efforts have been made to preserve both Christian and Islamic elements inside the building. For example, during prayers, large curtains are drawn to shield the Christian mosaics from view, but they remain uncovered for tourists and researchers at other times. Today, Hagia Sophia is many things at once. It's a working mosque. It's a symbol of global history. And now, with the chilling discovery unearthed from beneath the building, we're seeing yet another layer added to this already complex narrative. The discoveries beneath Hagia Sophia. It's safe to say Hagia Sophia has lived many lives. It's one of the many reasons some say the grand building stands on layers of history, both literally and figuratively. Because beneath its marble floors and monumental walls, archaeologists suspected there was more than just foundation. They believed there was something more, something that held the secret keys to a time long lost and forgotten. With this in mind, researchers soon began looking beneath Hagia Sophia, using whatever modern, non-invasive techniques were at their disposal at the time. Most recently, in 2020, three-dimensional surveys, including LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar, were carried out under the support of Turkey's Ministry of Culture and the General Directorate of Foundations. And what these scans revealed stunned the archaeological world. The scans showed a complex subterranean system stretching for more than 1 kilometer. Experts immediately set to work to figure out exactly what these tunnels were for. Soon, they described the network as a kind of circulatory system, infrastructure built to support water supply, drainage, ventilation, and possibly burial purposes. Amongst the discoveries is the hypogeum, a 3-room buried tomb located approximately 4 meters below Hagia Sophia's northeast facade. It dates back to the 4th century AD, well before the current building was constructed in the 6th century. The tomb was first documented in 1946 under Muzafer Ramazanoglu, a former museum director. Over time, it became buried under tons of rubble and sediment. In 2020, a large-scale clearing effort began under the Ministry of Culture, removing around 4 tons of material and restoring the tomb's architectural features, including marble flooring and wall structure. The corridors appear narrow in many places, sometimes requiring experts to crawl, as they were originally built for maintenance access, not walking tours. Terracotta pipes and drainage channels were also found in the tunnels, suggesting purposes such as water distribution, rain drainage, and ventilation between interior and exterior spaces. The tomb aside, additional vault spaces were uncovered beneath what once was the arcaded courtyard of Hagia Sophia. Although the courtyard structure above ground no longer exists, its substructures remain intact 2 meters below the current surface. And while it's unclear what these vaults may have been used for, all indications point towards a store for supplies or materials for the main basilica functions. Interestingly, to date, no artifacts or religious relics have been reported from the tomb or tunnels. The hypogeum remains undisturbed aside from excavation. Although legend and folklore long spoke of secret rooms and forgotten messages beneath Hagia Sophia, and myths about tunnels reaching Maiden's Tower or Prince's Islands exist, scholars emphasize that no evidence supports these stories. The known network is confined to the immediate area beneath the monument and its adjacent grounds. But while some focused on what might lie beneath, others turned their attention to what had already been hidden in plain sight. Thomas Whitmore was one of those people. In the early 1930s, shortly after Mustafa Kemal Ataturk declared Hagia Sophia a museum, Thomas, an American academic and founder of the Byzantine Institute of America, secured Turkish government approval to begin a delicate restoration project. His team wasn't digging tunnels or scanning for lost crypts, but they were uncovering history nonetheless. The move was significant. An American academic entrusted with revealing Christian art in a building that had functioned as a mosque for nearly 5 centuries. Thomas's restoration efforts began in earnest in December 1931 and spanned nearly 2 decades. By the time Hagia Sophia opened as a museum in 1935 and continuing into the late 1940s, his team had painstakingly removed layers of whitewash and Ottoman-era coating to reveal stunning Byzantine mosaics, the vast majority dating from the 9th to the 13th centuries. Working under scaffolds reaching 100 feet high, Thomas and his team used delicate tools down to dental picks to avoid damage to the fragile tesserae. Importantly, even after the museum opened, Thomas continued supervising restoration through the 1940s, despite structural and political complications. Ataturk reportedly approved the project quietly, posting a notice of repairs on the mosque door while allowing the uncovering of Byzantine art in secret until public presentation later on. Thomas's efforts not only brought these mosaics back to light, but also elevated international appreciation for Byzantine art. Interestingly, the program laid the groundwork for art historians in the West to recognize Hagia Sophia not just as an architectural marvel, but as a spiritual and artistic repository of Eastern Christianity. The mosaics his team uncovered remain visible today. Some are concealed by curtains, ensuring a delicate balance between historical preservation and current religious use. But even though Thomas wasn't interested in any more than the paintings Hagia Sophia had to offer, it didn't stop researchers and intrigued persons from digging into the mysteries beneath the building. The mystery beneath. Researchers were right to suspect that there was something more beneath Hagia Sophia, because there really was. We've talked about tombs, tunnels, and even paintings. But now, the real questions are, what are those structures? What were they used for? And what did they find in them? When early structural engineers examined the building for seismic reinforcement, noted irregular voids and puzzling gaps. Soon, they found anomalies that appeared under the marble floors of the main nave and apse, which was strange because the spaces didn't match the known Byzantine plans. In the early 2000s, archival blueprints and restoration reports flagged inconsistencies once again. Some drawings showed subsurface voids that were missing or unexplained in the current structure, gaps that intrigued historians and archaeologists. Interestingly, some medieval Byzantine clerical records mention a vault below the holy space. Historians believe these references may have originated in esoteric liturgical writings or inventories of relics kept below ground level. Though no full manuscripts survive, these hints fueled speculation in academic circles. What we do know is that in the Ottoman era, and later as a museum, early explorers and antiquarians occasionally reported glimpses of underground cisterns and blocked passageways. In fact, a 17th-century British traveler described sealed doors beneath Hagia Sophia, suggesting subterranean chambers. But access was, and still is, strictly controlled due to structural and religious concerns. Throughout the 20th century, engineers and archaeologists hypothesized that some infrastructure beneath Hagia Sophia could predate Justinian's basilica. And while it might seem a little too far-fetched, it's not completely crazy. Why? Because Constantinople was built atop a dense Roman urban landscape. Its baths, drainage systems, and even burial sites, which likely remained hidden and buried when new Christian structures rose above them. Together, these clues painted a picture. Hagia Sophia was not built on an empty site. It was erected atop layers of earlier Roman and Byzantine construction. The building sits above the shadows of past civilizations. But, until recently, the scale and nature of what lay beneath remained unknown. Since 2021, archaeologists have carefully cleaned and restored the underground tunnels beneath Hagia Sophia. It's a project that aims to make portions accessible to the public for the first time. And with the ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR mapping, confirmed an extensive network of subterranean structures measuring over 1 kilometer in total length. In 2020, researchers began to see the tunnels from an entirely different perspective. Experts describe the subterranean system as the lifelines of Hagia Sophia. It functioned as a combined infrastructure for water drainage, ventilation, and logistical support of the basilica above. But let's talk about the hypogeum, the three-chambered tomb nearly 4 meters below the building's northeast facade. Although it was first documented in 1956, it remained buried under approximately 4 tons of sediment until restoration began in 2020. But ever since the underground vaults came into focus, speculation swirled about what might lie inside them. One popular theory imagined that the tomb held hidden Christian relics, fragments of the True Cross, Holy Lance, or other sacred artifacts thought to be secreted underground ahead of the Ottoman conquest. Even more interestingly, the site's proximity to the former Scuophalakion treasury fueled speculation that wealthy Christians concealed valuables beneath the basilica to protect them. Unfortunately, no documents confirm this, but this theory became a tempting story due to the dramatic nature of the structure itself. Wealthy Christians aside, some historians speculated that the hypogeum could be a crypt for early Christian emperors or bishops buried beneath the Great Temple. The idea gained traction because similar subterranean sarcophagi in Western churches serve as episcopal burial sites. And this might actually be a good theory, because the chamber's arcosolia niches hinted at where bodies may have once rested. However, no human remains were reported in the chambers, fueling a mystery that echoes across centuries. Perhaps even more exciting is another legend which proposed that the tunnels connected to Hagia Sophia served as escape routes for Byzantine emperors and clergy. Some versions even claimed they extended toward the nearby Hippodrome or even Topkapi Palace, allowing safe passage during sieges. That narrative was dramatized in popular books and films, further embedding the idea of a concealed labyrinth beneath Istanbul. But architectural and engineering scholars were quick to offer a more sober theory. According to them, these chambers and tunnels predate Hagia Sophia, serving Roman or early Byzantine functions. This is especially backed up by the evidence of drainage channels, ventilation shafts, and narrow corridors which align with city infrastructure rather than secret sanctuaries. To them, the hypogeum may have been a ventilated tomb or storage space, later incorporated into Justinian's complex. And while this theory is possibly the most factual, after the release of blockbuster novels and sensational media coverage, public imagination saw the hypogeum as a lost monastic crypt, secret vault, or treasure chamber. Documentaries in the 1990s even featured submerged dives beneath the structure. But academics, including one well-renowned historian, consistently dismissed these as embellishments. But here's a perspective you've probably never heard. Somewhere beneath the foundation of Hagia Sophia, past the hypogeum's sunken chambers and the lattice of old Byzantine infrastructure, there's a doorway. According to the myths, it's not the grand kind, framed with gold or flanked by statues, just a slab of stone. Although it wasn't marked on any known survey. Not in the 1950s, definitely not in the digital scans from 2020, and not even in the Ottoman records that detailed nearly every corner of the basilica's underbelly. Some archaeologists described it as an architectural irregularity, probably just a sealed access tunnel or forgotten maintenance hatch. But others weren't so quick to dismiss it. The stone didn't quite match the surrounding materials, and there were markings, faint, fragmented, worn almost smooth by time, but still legible if you looked closely. What the internet thinks. There's a whole world of whispers online, blog posts, Reddit threads, and even YouTube videos, where the shadows beneath Hagia Sophia are transformed into legends. Over the past few years, Reddit users in particular have treated the hypogeum not as a tomb, but as a hidden vault, and the tunnel network as a secret colonial labyrinth. According to them, the hypogeum isn't just an underground chamber, it's the final repository of vanished Byzantine treasures. One of the most persistent rumors involves so-called candle holder fragments discovered in an unmapped side room. Debunkers push back. Archaeological reports, restoration logs, and Dr. Hassan Farhat Diker's published scans make no mention of any artifact matching that description. Experts say the fragments are likely common debris or pottery shards misidentified from low-quality photos. Still, the legend persists because, let's be honest, to imagine candlelight flickering in a forgotten crypt is undeniably cinematic. Other users go further, proposing that Reddit moderators themselves accessed leaked scans. It's in one of these threads that the blocked doorway bearing faded Greek and Latin inscriptions. The grainy images circulate across niche blogs, where the hypogeum is given monikers like the Emperor's Vault or the Archive of Hidden Saints. Bear in mind that none of these labels appear in any peer-reviewed publications or official floor plans, just posts that survive algorithmically long after the original data is purged. Then there are wider conspiracy spins. On YouTube and Telegram channels, folks claim Hagia Sophia's hidden chambers still hold Christian relics such as the Spear of Destiny, even icons believed destroyed during the Fourth Crusade. These stories echo Dan Brown-style thrillers. One channel even asserted that archaeologists are allowed to excavate only superficial layers because they found too much underneath. But the truth is, there's no archival proof, no Ottoman records, no Greek or church chronicle corroborating any of that. As historian Ilber Ortela is quoted in a public video, "We have the structure, but myths fill the void where documentation ends." Even older myths shape today's speculation. A 1994 documentary by Göksel Güllensoy featured explorations of submerged cisterns near Hagia Sophia. Viewers later misinterpreted those images, spreading rumors of secret subterranean chambers. Another claims to have seen no entry signs near the Imaret facade for undocumented chambers. But every promised treasure video ends with archaeologists brushing away soil and treading through empty corridors. Yet the common thread is disappointment. Every rumor of imperial bones dissolves due to lack of evidence. Every claim of hidden messages fades in the absence of inscriptions. Reddit threads close with the same deflation. Nice story, but nothing ever came of it. Hagia Sophia has simply become the latest projection screen for those narratives. While we're on the topic of unusual points of view, here's another perspective you don't often hear. What if the secrets of Hagia Sophia didn't just lie beneath it, but within its very walls, embedded into the logic of its creation? Online, there's a growing subset of people who aren't as fixated on the tunnels as they are on the building itself. The dome, the stones, the inexplicable choices that made Hagia Sophia not just a marvel, but a mystery. For instance, the speed of construction is often glossed over in mainstream accounts. 5 years. That's how long it took to complete the Hagia Sophia. Yet this 6th century structure, featuring one of the largest domes in the world, was completed in what feels like a blink. And that's not all. Forum users have compiled old blueprints and visitor photos dating back to the 1800s. Some of them reveal staircases that lead nowhere, passages that appear bricked up mid-design. One particular theory argues that several of these areas weren't abandoned construction zones, but intentionally sealed before the public ever saw them. Like the building had secrets it didn't want to share, one thread reads. Then there's the issue of the materials. Records show that much of Hagia Sophia was built using repurposed marble and columns from ancient temples, some pre-Christian, some pagan. But online sleuths suggest the reuse wasn't just practical, it was symbolic. Each imported piece, some believe, was chosen for a reason. A code or perhaps a statement. One popular theory proposes that the layout of certain columns mirrors the positioning of celestial bodies on the day of Emperor Justinian's coronation. Another claims that hidden inscriptions, now worn beyond recognition, once spelled out a blessing or curse sealed into the foundation. Interestingly, there's also the absence of detailed foundation logs. For a structure this massive, one would expect blueprints or at least anecdotal records of what was discovered when the site was first dug out. But there's almost nothing. That silence, some say, is the loudest clue of all. Because what if something was unearthed? Something that had to be covered again before construction could begin? Even modern scans of the structure reveal architectural oddities. In 2020, thermal imaging and radar surveys found discrepancies in wall density, suggesting that not all of Hagia Sophia's interiors are solid. There are voids, gaps, places where sound echoes strangely. The more people try to explain Hagia Sophia with logic, the more illogical it begins to feel. It's a building that shouldn't have been built that fast, a dome that shouldn't still be standing, a site with too many silences in its history. And the internet? It's trying to fill in those silences. The world? It's still trying to find the answers that lie hidden beneath the dome. What secrets do you think Hagia Sophia is hiding? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified whenever we upload a new video.